Rio Tinto is not just a regular mining company. It's one of the largest mining corporations in the world. The company operates in over 35 countries, digging up everything from iron ore to aluminium, copper, and diamonds. It is responsible for some of the largest mining operations across the globe. Their products fuel industries and even play a big role in the shift to clean energy, with minerals like copper being crucial for the growing electric vehicle (EV) industry. With its reach and influence, it's easy to see why Rio Tinto is a household name in the mining world. Their operations affect nearly every part of modern life. However, as large and influential as Rio Tinto is, it hasn't always used its power for good. But how did a company known for helping to fuel modern technology also end up in the middle of a massive scandal? Well, let's rewind a bit. The destruction of Aboriginal heritage. In 2020, Rio Tinto shocked the world by destroying a 46,000-year-old Aboriginal cave site in Australia. This cave, called Juukan Gorge, was home to one of the oldest human dwellings ever discovered. It was not just any cave, it was an ancient cultural treasure, offering a rare glimpse into the lives of the indigenous people of Australia. The Juukan Gorge was sacred to the Putu Kunti Kurrama and Pinikura people, the traditional custodians of the land. But why would Rio Tinto destroy such an important and historically significant site? The reason lies in the company's push to expand its iron ore mining operations in the region. The company needed to blast through the rock to reach more resources underneath, and the caves were standing in the way. In their pursuit of profit, Rio Tinto decided to destroy the cave. This move didn't sit well with many, and it sparked outrage worldwide. The company faced heavy criticism from both the public and politicians, especially from indigenous groups, who accused Rio Tinto of showing complete disrespect for Aboriginal history and culture, a backlash like no other. The destruction of Juukan Gorge wasn't just a local scandal, it became an international outrage. People from all corners of the globe condemned Rio Tinto for what many saw as a direct attack on indigenous heritage. The incident led to widespread protests, calls for stricter regulations on mining practices, and even a national debate about the role of mining companies in preserving cultural sites. But Rio Tinto's actions didn't end there. The company's CEO at the time, Jean-Sébastien Jacques, faced immense pressure. He was forced to resign after the incident, as did other senior executives within the company. The public demanded accountability, and the once dominant mining giant found itself in a massive public relations crisis. However, the damage was done. The destruction of Juukan Gorge not only hurt Rio Tinto's reputation, but also highlighted a growing issue in the mining industry. The lack of consideration for indigenous rights and cultural preservation in the rush to extract natural resources. Why did this happen? You might wonder, how could a company as big as Rio Tinto make such a careless mistake? The truth is that mining companies have often prioritized profit over environmental and cultural concerns. In Rio Tinto's case, the push for expansion and growth in the iron ore sector led the company to overlook the significance of the land it was digging into. Rio Tinto had been mining in the region for years, but as the demand for iron ore and other minerals increased, the company's operations grew larger. In the case of Juukan Gorge, the company was looking for a quick way to access valuable resources. They didn't take enough time to consider the deep cultural and historical value of the site, and as a result, they destroyed a part of Australia's indigenous heritage. This situation is far from unique. Across the globe, mining companies have faced similar issues where their operations collide with indigenous lands and cultural sites. But Rio Tinto's destruction of Juukan Gorge stands as one of the most high-profile examples of such a tragedy. The bigger picture, mining and environmental impact. The destruction of Juukan Gorge highlights a much larger issue within the mining industry. While companies like Rio Tinto are helping power the world's demand for clean energy through the mining of critical minerals like copper for electric vehicles, their actions can have devastating environmental and cultural consequences. Mining itself is a destructive process. It requires digging up massive amounts of earth, which leads to the displacement of ecosystems, wildlife, and entire communities. The process of extracting these minerals often comes at a high cost to the environment, and as we've seen with Rio Tinto, it can also come at a cost to history and culture. For example, Rio Tinto's operations in Mongolia have faced criticism for their environmental damage. And in places like the Gobi Desert, local communities have been displaced due to the company's mining activities. While Rio Tinto and other companies argue that their mining practices are essential for the transition to clean energy, it raises the question, can we truly move toward a greener future without sacrificing too much in the process? The aftermath and the search for accountability. Following the destruction of Juukan Gorge, Rio Tinto faced calls for reform. Many demanded that the company take a stronger stance on protecting cultural sites and working with indigenous communities to preserve their heritage. In response, Rio Tinto announced that it would review its policies and practices regarding the protection of cultural heritage sites. But the question remains, was this enough to repair the damage done? While the company made promises to improve, the destruction of Juukan Gorge left a permanent scar on its reputation. Trust once broken is hard to rebuild, and Rio Tinto's actions are a reminder of the importance of responsible and ethical mining practices. What can be done to prevent more scandals? The Juukan Gorge scandal is a clear indication that mining companies must take greater responsibility for the land they extract resources from. Companies like Rio Tinto must work more closely with indigenous groups and local communities to ensure that cultural sites are preserved. This means respecting traditional land rights, consulting with indigenous peoples before mining on their lands, and being transparent about the environmental and cultural impacts of their operations. Furthermore, governments around the world need to implement stricter regulations on mining companies. This includes better enforcement of laws that protect cultural heritage and the environment. Mining companies should be held accountable for their actions, and those affected by their operations should have a say in the decision-making process. The Juukan Gorge incident serves as a warning sign to the mining industry. If companies want to continue to thrive, they must adapt and prioritize ethical and sustainable practices over short-term gains. So, what's the takeaway from Rio Tinto's biggest scandal? It's a reminder that mining companies, despite their size and influence, must be accountable for their actions. The destruction of Juukan Gorge wasn't just a business decision, it was a heartbreaking loss for a civilization that had been living on that land for tens of thousands of years. As we look to the future, we must ask ourselves, how can we balance the need for resources with the protection of our planet and its history? If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments below.